Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to your online lecture series of EE222 microprocessor systems. This is the second lecture of week 13, your lecture number 38, and in this lecture we are going to discuss the capture, compare and PWM module, the CCP module in PIC18 microcontrollers. This lecture belongs to the CLO5 of your course, that is map to C4, which involves design and analysis and development of code for real-life applications. So let's start with your datasheet. In your datasheet, section number 15 belongs to the capture, compare and PWM module. In PIC18, the model we are using, PIC18F4550, there are two capture, compare and PWM modules, CCP1 and CCP2. In addition, in PIC18F4550, there is an enhanced mode for CCP that is known as eCCP, and that is related to CCP1. So CCP1 module can be used in either a regular mode or an enhanced mode. So in today's lecture we are going to discuss the regular mode only, and in the next lecture we will be discussing the enhanced mode of capture, compare and PWM module. And the difference between regular and enhanced mode will only lie in the PWM mode. The capture and compare modes in both these modules are same in the regular mode and in the enhanced mode. Only the PWM mode will be different in the regular and enhanced mode. So let's see what exactly is a capture, compare and PWM module. What does it do? What are its applications? So we will start with the capture mode of this module. Then we will move on to the compare mode of this module, and then finally we will discuss the PWM mode in this module. Only one of these three modes can be used at one time because there is a single module for all three of them. As with every other peripheral in this microcontroller, there is a control register, a dedicated control register associated with this peripheral also. And as we have two CCP modules, so this X is replaced by 1 or 2 in case of CCP1 or CCP2. So we have actually two CCP con registers, CCP1 con and CCP2 con. They are 100% identical. There is no difference between CCP1 module and CCP2 module. They are 100% identical. So that's why they have written X here, that can be replaced by 1 or 2 in case of CCP1 and CCP2. So in this CCP con register, the first two bits, the most significant bits, are unused. They are unimplemented. The next two bits, bit number 5 and 4, they are only used in PWM mode. They are not used in capture or compare mode. So for now just ignore both of them. We will discuss them in when we are discussing the PWM mode. And then the last 4 bits, or you can say the first 4 bits, the least significant 4 bits, they are used to select between different modes. As I said earlier, that there is only one module and we have to select between the capture, compare or PWM mode. So how to select between those three modes? Using these 4 pins. Now the question is, why do we need 4 pins to select between 3 modes? We can only use 2 pins to select between 3 modes, but inside those 3 modes there are further sub modes. So there are many combinations in which these modes can be selected, and we will discuss them in detail in today's lecture. First combination of these pins 0, 0, 0, 0 disables this module. All 3 modes are disabled. Then the next combination is reserved. We will not use this combination, and we should not use this combination because it may be used in some reserved processor operations. Similarly, 0011 should not be used. 0010 will configure this module in compare mode. Then these 4 modes, they configure this module in capture mode, and then the next 4, they configure that module in compare mode, and then finally the 11xx configures this module in PWM mode. So we will discuss all these modes one by one today. So let's jump to the capture mode first, and let's see what exactly is a capture mode. Here we have a block diagram of the capture mode of this module. What does capture module do? First, let me tell you. This block diagram represents both the CCP1 and CCP2. So let me draw a line that separates these two modules. Above this line is CCP1 and below this line is CCP2. If we understand one of these two, both of them are identical, the second one is automatically covered. So what is a capture mode? What does it do? We can see here that these two, they are the timer 3 higher and lower registers that combine to form a 16-bit register. Then these two, they are the timer 1 registers, and we can select between them. So any one of these two will be used. Either timer 1 will be used or timer 2 will be used. And here we can see two more registers, CCPR1H and CCPR1L. They also combine to form a 16-bit register. And here we can see they are two one-sided buffers. Then there is this arrow that is a one-sided arrow, and that is coming from the timer register into the CCP register. So something is happening that is copying the data of this timer register, the 16-bit timer register, into the CCP register, the 16-bit CCP register. When there is a trigger or an event at an external pin. This is an external pin. So what happens exactly is an event occurs at this pin. That can be a rising edge, that can be a falling edge, that can be further divided using a prescaler. So that can be just one rising edge, or the 4th rising edge, or the 16th rising edge. Then an edge detection circuit is there. So this circuit will detect whether there was a transition on an external pin, and whenever a transition is detected, a signal is sent to this circuitry that will copy the value of timer register, the 16-bit timer register, into the CCP register at that particular moment. So as soon as an edge occurs at this external pin, the value of timer is copied, the current value of timer is copied to the CCP registers. So how is it useful? Same goes for the CCP2. How is it useful? What we can do with that? Why we are interested that an event or an edge occurrence at an external pin copies the current value of timer into some other register? What we can do with that? In which applications we can use this? This can be used to calculate the frequency of some unknown waveform. How? For example, let's assume I configured this module to capture the value of timer 3. This is a capture mode. To capture the value of timer 3 whenever a falling edge is there, and I connect this pin to an unknown waveform. I don't know the frequency of this waveform, but what my module will do is, at every falling edge of this waveform, the value of timer 3, the current value of timer 3 at that particular moment will be copied as it is to this particular register, very precisely at that particular moment, instantly. So what I can do is I can configure the timer in 16-bit mode, and I can set the clock source, etc. I can set the clock source to the internal clock or external clock, and I know how much time one increment of this timer will take, and then I will start the timer. Once I start the timer, I will enable this module in capture mode. And then in the capture mode, this waveform, this unknown frequency waveform is connected or coming at this input pin. So at each falling edge on this pin, the value of the timer is running now. So it may have counted up to, let's say, a value of XYZ until the falling edge comes. So as soon as the falling edge comes, that value XYZ is copied to the CCP registers. And then I clear the timer. So when I clear the timer, it again starts from 0. I am not shutting down the timer, I am just resetting the timer register to a value of 0, but I am not disabling the timer or stopping the timer. So timer is running, a value a falling edge came, the value at that moment was copied, and then the timer was reset to 0 and it started counting again from 0. And at the next falling edge, again at that particular moment, the value of timer was copied. So what do you think that value XYZ would be? That XYZ value would be same every time, because the timer is counting from 0 every time. It is being reset to 0 every time. So if a continuous waveform is connected here, and this value that is being copied at every falling edge, that is, let's say, displayed on a port, that value of port will be showing the count, the number of counts it took from one falling edge to the next falling edge. So we will get this time period T, and this is the time period for this waveform, and this time period is equal to 1 over f. So we can get the frequency of an unknown waveform using this capture mode. That is one application. It can be used in other applications as well, and we can calculate this frequency very, very precisely using this method, because we already know how much time every count of a timer is taking. So if we know the counts, we can calculate the time, and if we know the time, we can calculate the frequency. So in this capture mode, what we will do today is we will configure our CCP1 in capture mode, and we will connect an unknown waveform to, or you can say a known waveform to this frequency, and we will try to see what value is there on port, and is it showing the correct value of the frequency or not. So we are going to test it using a code today. That is one major application of capture mode. Now calculating the frequency of an unknown waveform can be used in other applications as well. It can be used in communication modules. It can be used to find the RPM of a motor. We can build a very accurate tachometer using this application. In summary, what capture mode does is, there is an input, a pin defined as input, a waveform or an event is occurring at that pin, and as soon as that event occurs, the value of timer is copied from timer register into the CCP register. That's it. That's the whole operation of this block. Then what are these what can be the event? The event can be a falling edge, as I said. The event can be a rising edge. The event can be every 4th rising edge or every 16th rising edge. So there is no option for prescaler with falling edge. Either every falling edge will be detected, or every rising edge will be detected, or every 4th rising edge will be detected, or every 16th rising edge will be detected, and that will be counted as an event, and upon the occurrence of that event, the value of timer will be copied to the CCP register. And now if we go to the CCP con register, we can see here, based on the combination of these 4 bits, these are the 4 modes that we just discussed: every falling edge, every rising edge, 4th rising edge, 16th rising edge. So we can select between any of them using the CCP-X con register, the CCP control register. Then let's move to the compare mode. The compare mode is exactly the opposite of capture mode. If I can show you the block diagram of compare mode, what it is doing is it is comparing the value. Let me draw a line here again. This is for CCP 1 and 2 both, so we are discussing only one of them. Both of them are identical. What the compare module is doing is it is comparing the value of CCP register with any of timer 1 or timer 3 register, and when there is a match, when both of these values are equal, as soon as they are equal, a match signal is generated and an output pin is either set or cleared or toggled. We can select between any of these three options. So it is doing exactly the same. In compare mode, what we were doing was input was coming here, then as soon as the input came, the value of timer was copied to the CCP register. In this case, what we are doing is we are comparing the value of CCP and timer, and as soon as they are equal, we are setting or clearing or toggling an output pin. So what is the application of this mode then? In case of that mode, in case of capture mode, we discussed that we can use it to calculate the frequency of an unknown waveform, or we can make a tachometer for that, or we can use that in some communication applications. What can we do with the compare mode? We can generate some waveform using this mode. We can display an occurrence of some event using this compare mode. We can generate a one-shot timer using this mode, just like in 555 timer, a one-shot timer, and in many other applications. So in today's lecture, what we are going to do is we are going to toggle this pin every time these two values, these two registers, they are equal. So we are going to generate a waveform on this output pin. So these are the capture and compare modes of the CCP module. The last thing that I had to tell you about this module was that in both of the capture and compare mode, we can see here that they have written timer 1 and timer 3 both in here, in this module also, and in this module also. So which one of them will be used? Let me show you the data sheet, and let's go back to the timer 3 module. And here now you can see that these two bits, bit number 3 and bit number 6, the T3 CCP2 and T3 CCP1 that we skipped in the previous lecture, they decide that whether timer 1 is used in both CCP modules for both CCP1 and CCP2, timer 3 is used for both of them, or timer 1 is used for CCP1 and timer 3 is used for CCP2. There is no option to use timer 1 for CCP2 and timer 3 for CCP1. So we will use these two pins to select between whether we are going to use timer 3 or timer 1 for which of the module. So let's start writing the program that will make things more clear. I will start with a blank program, and I will also use this CCP interrupt in this case. CCP is a peripheral, and CCP also has an interrupt associated with that, and we are going to use interrupt for only the capture mode, not the compare mode. Why? We are going to discuss it soon. So let's start writing our code and let's see what we want. First, let me define the problem that we are going to write a code for which application. We are going to use CCP1 in capture mode and CCP2 in compare mode. And in capture mode, we are going to use CCP1 to calculate the frequency of an input waveform and display that on an output port. And as it is a 16-bit number, we are going to use port B and port D both combined to display that 16-bit number. And we are not going to display the frequency for now. We are going to display only the count of the timer. And then we will use CCP2 in compare mode. And what we are going to do for that is we will use timer 3 for CCP2, and we are going to generate a waveform, and the frequency of that waveform will be equal to the overflow time of timer 3. So we will not load timer 3 with any value. We will not preload timer 3 with any value. We will not preload CCP register, that 16-bit CCP register with which the timer register was compared, with any value. So both of them will be 0. And in the beginning both of them were 0, so they were equal. So an event will occur and the output pin will be toggled. If it was 0, it will become 1, and if it was 1, it will become 0. Then the timer will be running, so the timer will start counting from 0, 1, 2 upwards, and it will count up to 65535, and then it will overflow to 0. And as soon as it will overflow to 0, it will match with the CCP register again, and that comparator will generate a signal again, and that signal will trigger an event that will toggle the output pin again. So previously if it was 1, it will become 0, and in that way a waveform will be generated continuously on the output of the CCP2 module that is used in compare mode. So we are going to use CCP1 in capture mode. So let's see what we have to do to configure the CCP1 in capture mode. We will use CCP1 con register. As we are not using the PWM mode for now, so the first 4 bits, the MSBs, will be 0. And then from these 4 pins we will select which mode we are going to use. So we are going to use CCP1 in capture mode. Capture mode with every falling edge. So every falling edge will be captured. We are interested in this highlighted portion. So we will set the value of bit number 0 to 3 to 0100. So let's do that. CCP1 con is equal to 0B0 0000 0100. Now we are going to configure the CCP2 in compare mode, and we want to toggle the output at every match. So let's find out which mode is that. Here, this is the compare mode. 0010, the CCP module will be configured in compare mode, and this will toggle the output on match. So CCP2 con is equal to 0B 0000 0010. Now the CCP1 is configured as capture mode, every falling edge, and CCP2 is configured in compare mode, toggle output. What we want to do next? We have to set the associated pin for CCP1 as input and for CCP2 as output, because in case of capture mode we are taking input from an external pin, and in case of compare mode we are sending an output to an external pin, and some fixed pin are associated with these two, CCP1 and CCP2 modules. And let me tell you that RC1 is by default associated with CCP2, so do not confuse that. RC1 is associated with CCP2 and RC2 is associated with CCP1. So what we want to do is, we want to make the RC2 trace C2 is equal to what? For the CCP1, it has to be configured as input. So for input, we set the tri-state pin, and for trace C1, we want to clear the pin. So RC2 is for CCP1 and is now an input for capture mode, and RC1 is for CCP2 and is now an output for compare mode. What else do we want? We have configured the pins, we have configured the CCP registers. What else? We want to display the timer count, the captured count on ports. Which ports? Port B and port D. So let's make them trace D is equal to 0 and trace B is equal to 0. Let's make both the ports as output ports. Then what? We also have to use the timers associated with this. So let's see which timer will be used for which module. So let's open the data sheet and let's see which timer we want to use for which CCP. Let's decide here that we want to use one timer for one CCP and one timer for another CCP. So which option is that? The second option here. Timer 3 for CCP2 and timer 1 for CCP1. So we want to select 0, 1 for these two bits. T3 CCP2 and T3 CCP1, and they are not together. Mind that when setting values for the T3 con register, T3 CCP2 and T3 CCP1 are not together. So let's see what we want to move in the whole T3 con register. RD16 should be 1 to enable 16-bit operation. Then T3 CCP2 should be equal to 0. Then T3 is going to be used for CCP2, that is generating a waveform. So let's use a prescaler. Let's use a prescaler of 8. Okay. So let's set both of these bits as 1, and then T3 CCP1 should also be equal to 1 to select this mode. So far we have 1, 0, 1, 1, 1. Then synchronization should be on in this case. So 0, setting this bit to 0, and then clock source should be internal clock source. This bit also should be equal to 0, and then timer should be off for now. We will turn it on later. So this register will be 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0. T3 con is equal to 0B 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0. Now what's left? Timer 1 is associated with CCP1. So T1 con is equal to 0B. What value? We are going to use it in capture mode. So let's give value of 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 to timer 1. No prescaler and no external clock source, nothing. Only enabling the 16-bit read-write mode. So T1 con should be 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Now T3 is selected for timer 3 for CCP2 compare mode with prescaler of 8 and timer 1 for CCP1 capture mode with no prescaler. Next, what? In capture mode, what we wanted to do? In capture mode, we wanted to reset or clear this timer every time the event occurred, every time a falling edge was detected. So whether we have to manually check this flag, the CCP1IF, or we can enable an interrupt for this. So whenever an interrupt comes, we know that an event occurred. So let's enable interrupt for CCP1. To enable interrupt for any peripheral, we have to enable the global interrupt, we have to enable the peripheral interrupt, and then we have to enable the specific interrupt for that particular peripheral. CCP1 IE is equal to 1. So now the interrupt for CCP1 interrupt is enabled for capture mode. And inside this interrupt, what we will do? We will display the values on port and we will reset the timer. And by resetting the timer, I remembered that I have to turn on both the timers. TMR1 on is equal to 0 and TMR3 on is equal to 0. Both the timers have been turned on and then I can just wait. So what is happening now? I have turned on the timers. Timer 1 is now on. So, and the interrupt for CCP1 is on. So the CCP1 is waiting for any event to occur at the input pin, the physical pin, and as soon as a falling edge occurs, it will capture the value of timer 1 and it will go to the interrupt and display it on the port. So let's go to the interrupt service routine and display the value on port. Which value? The captured value. Where is the value captured? In CCP-R1L. This is the lower register, so let's send the lower register to port B, and CCP-R1H, the higher register, to port D. And at the end, what we have to do is CCP1IF is equal to 0. Clear the interrupt flag. And what else we wanted to do in the interrupt service routine is clear the timer. TMR1 is equal to 0. Why I have written the TMR1 is equal to 0 as the first line? To minimize the error. What sort of error? Now the timer is running. The timer was running, it was counting up from 0, 1, 2, 3 up to, let's say, 1000. And when it was at 1000, a falling edge occurred. As soon as the falling edge occurred, the value of timer, the current value of timer, that was 1000, it was copied to these two registers, CCP-R1H and CCP-R1L. But the timer kept running. I did not clear the timer. No one could clear the timer. The software did not clear the timer. It kept running. It kept counting up from 1000 to 1001 to 1002. If I do not clear it, if I do not stop it, it kept running. But as soon as the interrupt occurred, it jumps to the ISR. So inside the ISR, my first aim is to clear that timer from 1000 to 0. If I don't clear it instantly and I clear it at this point after sending the values to the ports, after clearing the flag, I am wasting cycles and the timer is still running in the background as we discussed in the previous lecture. So the timer is still counting from 1001, 1002, 1003, maybe up to 1010, 1020, and then I clear it. And when I clear it, the waveform is also coming at the input port. It is not stopped. So some time has passed and some portion of the waveform has elapsed. And the next time the interrupt will occur few cycles before the required. If it was supposed to occur at 1000 cycles, it will occur at maybe 990 cycles or 970 cycles. And let me tell you again, even in this approach, it is not 100% accurate. Why? Because as soon as the interrupt occurs, the processor completes its previous instruction and then moves to the interrupt. So maybe one instruction cycle is wasted in that. Then when it comes here inside the interrupt, even though I am resetting the timer to 0, but I am resetting it manually. I am doing it using some instruction. And how many registers are there inside this timer? 1, 2 registers. So some instruction cycles will be consumed to clear this timer also. Maybe 4 microseconds are consumed, one instruction cycle we can say. So one instruction cycle is wasted there. 4 microseconds have gone. We already have an error of 4 microseconds. And then one important thing to tell you here is, whenever we manually load the timer with some value without stopping it, the timer automatically goes into the dormant mode for 5 to 6 cycles. It does not count up until the values are stable. So a total of, you can say, 10 to 11 cycles are still wasted, and we will see that when we are going to simulate this program. We will see that precisely 11 seconds are wasted in this process, in this reloading of the or resetting of the timer. That's why I am saying that manual reloading or manual resetting of timer in any case is not as accurate as the automatic resetting and reloading or preloading of the timer by the hardware, because that is running in the background, that is not consuming any processor cycles. We will run this code and we will see this phenomena. Timer 3 is also on. So timer 3 will start running and it will keep running, and whenever it is equal to 0, whenever it reloads, the CCP2 peripheral is running in the background and it will keep toggling the output pin. So we don't need to worry about that. Okay, so let's see what frequency we should be expecting at the output of CCP2, because we are using it in compare mode to generate a waveform at the output. We know that we have a 4 MHz crystal, so every count up will be after f oscillator by 4 if we don't have any prescaler, and that means that the time period of each count without a prescaler is 1 microsecond. Then we have a prescaler of 3, a prescaler of 8, as we have set it here in the T3 con register. These 2 bits are 1, so we have selected a prescaler of 8 in this case, and we have also set the value of T3 in the timer 3 register to 0. We have not loaded or preloaded it with any other value, so the timer will start from 0 and will go all the way up from 0 to 65535. So we will have 65536 counts in total. And this makes the total time period of my waveform, the desired time period, to 0.524288 seconds. This means that after every approximately half a second, my waveform will be changing, my pin will be toggling and my waveform will be changing the state. So for half a second it would be 1, and for half a second it would be 0, and then again for half a second it would be 1. So it will be a periodic waveform with a time period of approximately 1.05 seconds with a 50% duty cycle, 0.5 seconds on and 0.5 seconds off. Before compiling this code, let me correct 2 mistakes that I made while writing the code in real time. I wrote here CCP-R1L is equal to port B. That instruction would do was to load CCP with the value of port B, but actually what we wanted was to display the value of CCP on port B. So the destination is always on the left and the source is always on the right. We want to transfer the value of CCP to the port, not from port to CCP. So I wrote it the other way around. So please correct this. I have corrected it now in this code. And the second mistake was I did not turn on the timers. I set TMR1 on is equal to 0 and TMR3 on is equal to 0 to turn them on, but we have to set it to 1 to turn it on. So both of these timers will be on when we set these two pins to 1, not to 0. So correct this also. I have added captions on that portion also for these corrections. So now let's try to compile it and see if there are any errors. The build is successful. So now what we have to do is we have to simulate this code in Proteus. This is the frequency I want to measure. This is my source. Let's say my unknown frequency was 1 kilohertz. This is known in my case because I want to check whether my program is working fine or not. But let's assume that this frequency was unknown. So I have connected a square wave source with RC2, that is CCP1, and that CCP1 is in capture mode. So we want to measure the frequency of this waveform, and in case of CCP2 RC1 we are generating a waveform, displaying it on the oscilloscope. So once I simulate this code, let's do this. There is a waveform. We can see this is a waveform on port RC1 on CCP2, and let's see what is the time period of this waveform. Currently the scale is at 0.1 and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and a little bit of the sixth box, so 0.5 something seconds as expected. So the waveform is being generated very accurately using this method. Now what about the frequency we were trying to measure? Here this is the value that we are reading on port D and port B. The waveform is continuously being supplied as an input to RC2, and the number of counts by the timer 1 are being displayed on port D and port B. In this case, the port D is the MSB and port B is the LSB, most significant byte and least significant byte. So let's see what is this number. I'm going to the base n. Let me open the calculator in the computer and let's go to the programmer mode. So let me write in binary number. What is this number? The RD 0 and 1 are 1, all other are 0. So I will write 1 1 and then start from here, because now the number is going from bottom to top and then from bottom to top. 1 1, then 1 1 0 1 1 1 0 1. This is the value that we are getting on our port D and port B, and these are the number of counts that we have from one high to low transition to the second high to low transition. So this is the complete period of this unknown waveform. Let's convert it to decimal. That this is 989. Now let's see how much counts we were actually expecting. We are getting 989 counts, but what was our expectation? For a waveform of 1 kilohertz, what is the time period? 1 over 1000, approximately 1 millisecond. 1 millisecond is the time period for a waveform with a frequency of 1 kilohertz. So 1 millisecond is equal to 1000 microseconds. 1000 microseconds should translate to how many counts in case of timer 1 that has no prescaler, that has a clock input of 4 megahertz divided by 4, f oscillator by 4, that is 1 megahertz. So 1 megahertz is 1 microsecond. Remember, we are not using any prescaler for timer 1. We are using a prescaler for only timer 3. So timer 1 is getting the clock as it is, the f oscillator by 4, that is 1 megahertz. So every count of timer 1 is 1 microsecond. And to get a time period of 1000 microseconds, straightforward, we have a calculation that we should have 1000 counts. But we are getting 989 counts. There is a difference of 11 counts. And this is what I was talking about when I was writing that program. So I was trying to explain this difference, that 11 counts are being wasted, 11 microseconds are being wasted while preloading or resetting this value of timer. This value, some instruction cycles are consumed here, some microseconds are wasted here, and then after the timer is resetted or loaded with some value, it remains dormant for 5 to 6 cycles. It is written in your data sheet. If you go to the timer, any timer module, there are certain footnotes written on the data sheet, and those footnotes explain that while the timer is running and you try to write a value into the timer register, the value is written, but for the next 4, 5, 6 cycles the timer is not counting, to let the values stabilize and to let the clock synchronize again. So now we know how many exact cycles that are being wasted in this method, 11 cycles. So these 11 cycles are fixed, they are constant. So let's see if we change this frequency. Let's see if we change this frequency to what value. Let's say, let me increase this value to 10 kilohertz. I am increasing it 10 times. So if I am increasing the frequency 10 times, my time period will decrease 10 times. So previously it was 1 millisecond or 1000 microseconds. Now it would be 0.1 millisecond or 100 microseconds. So the count ideally that we should be getting is 100. But if our hypothesis is correct, if our calculation is correct, and if that 11 cycle offset or error is constant, how many counts we should get? We should get 89 counts because 11 cycles are being wasted. So let's try to simulate it. Now the waveform is still the same, but the value has been changed. RD0 is now completely 0 as expected, because previously the count was 989. It was greater than 256, so it could not be completed in a single 8-bit register. A single 8-bit register can count maximum up to 255. So it was taking some portion of the second, the higher register also. But in this case, our expected count is 89. So it should have been within a single register. So up till this point, so far so good, because the values of the higher register are 0. So let's see what this value is. This value is 0 1 0 1 1 0 0 1. Let's convert it to decimal. 89. Perfect. So that 11 cycle error, the 11 microsecond error is constant. Let's try it for a third frequency. Let's confirm our hypothesis. Let's change the frequency to, let's say, 200 Hertz. 200 Hertz. So first let me calculate what should be the time period. The time period should be 1 over 200. That is 5 milliseconds. 5 milliseconds mean 5000 counts. So what should we get? 5000 minus 11, 4989 counts should be there. Let's try to simulate it. Let's see what this value is. In binary, now we are getting the value of 1001111111101, and in decimal we can see that this is 4989 as expected. Perfect. So now let's see what is the maximum frequency that we can calculate using this method, and what is the minimum frequency that we can calculate using this method. The more the frequency, the lower should be the count. The lower the frequency, the higher should be the count. So how much maximum count we can achieve using a 16-bit register? 65,536, 65536 or 65535. So 65535 microseconds can be our maximum time period, and that means that the minimum frequency we can measure using this method is 15.25 Hertz, or you can say 16 Hertz, because it is more than 15. So let's say so this means that we can count the frequency, the minimum frequency of 16 Hertz using this method. So let's see, if we are using 16 Hertz, what happens. It may not give the desired results, but let's see what it does. So let's simulate it and let's see what is the value. The value currently on this these ports, displayed on these ports is 1111 0100 000 11001, and this is 62,489 in decimal. So the actual count was plus 11, so that becomes 62,500 counts. 62,500, if I go to the scientific mode, 62500 into 10 raised to the power minus 6 1 over x into 1000000. So this becomes 16 Hertz, precisely 16 Hertz. We can measure 16 Hertz very precisely using this method. So the minimum frequency of 16 Hertz can be measured, and what should be the maximum frequency that can be measured? Now that is tricky. You should be careful. Not that tricky, just you have to be careful in this, because we are getting an error of 11 counts. 11 counts are already there whatsoever. So to get one count on this register, that is the minimum count we can get. The minimum count is 0, but 0 doesn't mean anything. 1 over 0 is infinity, so the frequency cannot be infinite. 1 over 1 is 1, so the frequency may be 1 megahertz in case of one count. But we are already wasting 11 machine cycles or 11 microseconds in the background, so we have to keep it in mind. So for a minimum of one count plus those 11 counts, we can get a frequency of a time period of 12 seconds, 12 microseconds. So if I write it here, 12 microseconds mean the frequency of 83.333 kilohertz. The maximum frequency of 83 kilohertz can be measured using this method. So 83k, let me write 83k here and let's simulate it again. Perfect. We are getting a count of 1 here. See? Plus those 11 cycles that were wasted. So one count this plus 11 cycles, so 12 microseconds. And you will see that sometimes this will jump to 2, sometimes this will jump to 1. So let's see why. Keep looking at this waveform, keep looking at this value, pin number 33 and 34. Sometimes pin number 34 will become 1. And let me explain why this happens. 12 microsecond means 1 over 12 into 83.333 kilohertz. But we gave a frequency of 83 kilohertz. And what is the time period for 83 kilohertz? 83 power 3 inverse. And that becomes into 1000000, that becomes 12.048 counts. Now this is not a whole number. We can get only a whole number in a count with the precision of 1 microsecond. Now there are 3 things to consider, not 2 things. The minimum frequency, the maximum frequency, and the precision. The step by which we can change our frequency. We cannot change our frequency with a step smaller than 1 microsecond. I think that would be clear that that is a simple mathematics. You can write it on a paper and you can see, if we give a step of 1 microsecond precisely, we can give steps to the frequencies, that what is the precision of this instrument. So we have successfully made an instrument that measures a frequency of any waveform ranging from 16 Hz to 83 kHz with a precision of 1 microsecond, or with a step of 1 microsecond. So that is a very good instrument. We can use it in tachometers very safely, very precisely. So this is CCP capture and compare mode for you. And now we are going to move to the PWM mode. Okay, so first let's see what is PWM mode. What is the module behind the pulse width modulation mode? This is the simplified block diagram for PWM mode. So we can see here that we are involving timer 2 in this mode, and we have the period register of timer 2 there, that is the comparator of timer 2, and then we have the CCPR XL, the lower 8-bit register of CCP, and this CCPR XH, that is not physically available to the user in this mode. So we are only dealing with 8-bit mode because the timer 2 is only an 8-bit timer. And then there is a comparator. This comparator is of the CCP module itself. I will not go into the detailed working of this module, that how this module works. Rather, I would try to explain it application wise, that how to use this module, not how this module was made. In simple words, what's happening is this module is using the timer 2 to generate a waveform, as we use timer 2 manually to generate a waveform, but it is adding some additional feature to that, and we discussed that, we talked about that in our lecture about timer 2, that in timer 2 we can set the time period of the waveform, but we cannot set the duty cycle of the waveform. And to set the duty cycle, we had to manually load the PR2 register every time. But in this case, we have an option to set the duty cycle also using one register, using this this equation, and we can also set the time period of the waveform using this equation, and we can use the PR2 register as expected for the time period of the PWM, and we can use this CCP register, that is an additional register now we have at our disposal, this CCP register, to set the duty cycle of the waveform. Only a couple of things need to be understood for this. This formula is fixed. This formula is fixed for PIC18F 4550. So the PR2 register, we all know that it is an 8-bit register, plus 1, because 255 can be the maximum count of this. The value that can be stored in an 8-bit register is 255, but as the count starts from 0, we are missing 1 count. So that plus 1 is for that, and then this is multiplied by 4. This is the formula for calculation, because we are using the TOSC, the time period of system oscillator. This is not the timer oscillator, this is the time period. This T represents the time period, not the timer. So this is the time period of a main oscillator, of this system oscillator. We have a system oscillator of 4 MHz for now in our applications. So this TOSC would be for 4 MHz, 1 over 4 microseconds. 1 over 4 microseconds into 4 is 1 microsecond. So you could use the time period of timer oscillator instead of that, the time period of the timer 2 oscillator, and you didn't have to write this 4 in that case. But as it is showing the system oscillator, so the system oscillator has 4 times frequency as compared to the timer oscillator. and then the timer to prescale value. If you are using any type of any value of prescaler enabled for the timer 2, then that prescaler value will be multiplied. It is fairly simple, it is fairly straightforward, because timer 2 is being used to generate this waveform. So for instance, if I have a value of 249 in my PR2 register plus 1 as in this formula into 4 into 1 over 4 microseconds, because our system clock is 4 megahertz. So the 4 is cancelled and the PWM period will be equal to 250 microseconds. The total time period for our PWM will be 250 microseconds. So 250 microseconds mean that we will have a frequency of 4000 Hertz or 4 kilohertz. So the frequency will be equal to 4 kilohertz. In this case we are going to use this value of 249 in our case, just a random value. I just selected a random value and just wanted to see whether a 4 kilohertz frequency is going to be generated or not. Then in case of the duty cycle, if we use the same formula, we can see that the duty cycle will be equal to, in microseconds, it will be equal to CCPR XL colon CCPX con 45. Let me go to the data sheet to tell you about that. So if we go to the CCP module and CCP con register, we skipped these two bits previously. The bit number 4 and 5, these two bits we skipped in our previous modes, because they are not used in both capture and compare mode. But in PWM mode, these two bits are the LSBs for the 10-bit PWM duty cycle. Now it is to note here that PIC18 F4550 has a 10-bit resolution duty cycle, not an 8-bit resolution duty cycle. They have just tried to make it more precise, but as we have all the registers in PIC18 equal to 8-bit, they are all of 8-bit size. So for a 10-bit data, we need a separate register or some two separate bits. So these are the two LSBs, and the CCPR XL, this CCPR XL, that would be the most significant 8 bits, and these two bits will be the least significant 8 bits. So they will combine, and they will combine to form a single 10-bit register. So let's say we use a value of 75 in CCPR XL, and for now I am ignoring the value of this CCP con, and then they have written that the TOSC should be there. So the timer oscillator, again the main clock oscillator, has the time period of 1 over 4 microseconds, and the timer to prescaler value, we are not using any prescaler, so this should be 1. In this case, this 75 is wrong, because for a 10-bit register, if I write it here, the 75 means, let me go to the base n, 75 in decimal is 1001011. This is an 8-bit value of 75, but we also have 2 zeros as the LSBs here. So what is the total value? 1001011100. The total value is 300 for this 10-bit register. For an 8-bit register it was 75. For a 10-bit register with 2 LSBs equal to 0, this value becomes 300. And if we note here, if we carefully note here, that 300 is nothing but 75 into 4. So if we do not need a very high accuracy, we can completely ignore these 2 bits and we can completely ignore this 1/4, and we can modify our formula for a 4 MHz oscillator, not for any other megahertz oscillator. For a 4 MHz oscillator, what we can do is we can set our duty cycle equal to CCP lower register into 1 microsecond for a 4 MHz clock into the prescaler value. So 75 microseconds would be the duty cycle of the waveform that is being generated. So it will remain on for 75 microseconds and it will remain off for how many microseconds? 250 minus 75 microseconds off. From where this 250 came? From the time period. So the total time period was 250 microseconds and the on time was 75 microseconds. So the off time would be automatically 175 microseconds, 250 minus 75. Let's see what happens for a crystal of frequency other than 4 MHz. In that case, we have to be very careful. We cannot use this formula. This formula would not be able to be used. We have to use the complete 10-bit value of CCP lower register in conjunction with the 2 bits that are in CCP con register. So this is a 10-bit register. We have to set this 10-bit value completely. Then we have to write the TOSC as it is, the main clock, and then we have to write the prescaler. For example, our clock is 8 MHz. So for a clock of 8 MHz, the TOSC is 1/8 microsecond. Let's say for a prescaler of 1, we have to calculate the time period. So we have to give a 10-bit value. That 10-bit value can range from 0 to 1024. Any value ranging from 0 to 1024 can be put in instead of this value, and then we have to calculate our duty cycle, and then we have to convert this value into binary and then separately load the CCPL 8 with higher 8 bits and the CCP con 4 and CCP con 5 with the lower 2 bits. So let's do an example. Let's write a code that will generate 2 waveforms, 2 PWMs, because we have 2 CCP modules. One waveform will have a duty cycle of 33% and the other waveform will have a duty cycle of 66%. So we will use a value of 249 for the PR2. The total time period would be 250 microseconds. For one waveform, the on time would be 75 microseconds and the off time would be 175, and it would be the other way around for the second CCP module. So let's open the code. I will start with a blank main subroutine. Inside this function, what we want to do now, both the CCP modules are now going to be operated in PWM mode, and PWM is generated on a pin as an output. So tris C1 should be equal to 0, setting it as output, and tris C2 should be equal to 0, setting it as output in this case. So both tris C1 and tris C2 should be configured as output pins. Then CCP1 con register should be configured in PWM mode. Let's go to the data sheet. Let's go to the CCP con register. Let's again put these values as 0, and using these 4 bits, let's select the PWM mode, that is 11XX. So I will write 0000 1100 in CCP1 con also, and as we are going to use CCP2 con in PWM mode, the same value will be loaded into CCP2 con. What else we are going to use? timer 2, because timer 2 will be the peripheral that will be used in conjunction with the CCP module to generate these PWMs. The time period has to come from some timer source. So with what value we want to load the timer 2 con register? Let's see here. We don't want any post scaler. This bit is unimplemented, so the most significant 5 bits are 0. Timer 2 is off currently at this point, so this bit is also 0. And the prescaler, we are not going to use any prescaler at this point, so T2 con is equal to 0 B 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0. Now from here we have to set our duty cycle and we have to set our time period. So let me tell you here that even if we have two CCP modules, both of them are sharing the timer 2 to generate the time period. So the time period of both PWMs will be same, but as there are two CCPs and they both have dedicated CCPXL and CCPXH registers, we can have separate duty cycles for separate PWMs. The time period, the overall time period for both the waveforms will be same, but the duty cycle for both of them can be independent of each other. So let's set the time period. PR2 is equal to 249 as discussed, and what it will do is it will make a PWM with a time period of 250 microseconds. Now we want 75 microsecond duty cycle for one PWM and 175 microsecond duty cycle for the other. So I will load CCPR 1L is equal to 75 and CCPR 2L is equal to 175, and then TMR2 on is equal to 1. Just turn on the timer and wait. The waveform will be started. As soon as you turn on the timer, both the waveforms will be started to be generated. We don't have to do anything else. This is a very small program. I think it should compile fine. The build is successful. So let's try to simulate it. Just remove this one from the source now and put it on the oscilloscope. So we should have two waveforms, both with the same time period of 250 microseconds, one with a duty cycle of 33% or 75 microseconds, and the second with a duty cycle of 66% or 175 microseconds. Let's see. Okay, these two waveforms are being produced. Let me change the time scale here. So if we can see here, the time scale is currently at 50 microseconds. So one box is representing 50 microseconds. In the yellow waveform, we have this waveform remaining off for 1.5 box, 50 plus 25, 75 microseconds, and remaining on for 3.5 boxes, 150 plus 25 is equal to 175 microseconds. And the total time period for this waveform is 75 plus 175 is 250 microseconds. And conversely, the waveform in blue is remaining on for 75 microseconds and off for 175 microseconds. So it is this simple to generate two PWMs or one PWM with a very precise time period and a very precise duty cycle using timer in conjunction with the CCP module. That's it for today's lecture. These peripherals are really very important, and now we are quickly moving towards the real life applications, because our next lecture will be on the ADC, and then we will start developing programs by combining these peripherals and developing codes for real life applications for motor control using H-bridge, for motor speed and direction control, and etc. We have already started to combine these peripherals. We are already using the timers in conjunction with the CCP module to generate waveforms, to calculate frequencies, to make PWMs, and so on. and in the next lecture we will add the ADCA along with them, and we will combine 3 peripherals along with the interrupts, and then we will develop a real life application out of that. So these 4, 5, 6 lectures related to the peripherals are very important for your future applications. So if you have any questions or confusions related to this particular lecture, please feel free to ask me in Microsoft Teams week 13, and I'll be more than happy to answer. I will also give an assignment based on these lectures, so keep a check of the assignments tab in your general channel. And till then, until next lecture, take care, stay safe, Allah Hafiz.